All right, let's talk about something pretty revolutionary. What if? What if you could prove who you are without actually revealing anything about yourself? Sounds kind of like a superpower, right? Well, that's the promise of Alkebuleum Masked Identity, and it might just be the key to taking back control of our digital lives.
I mean, just think about it for a second. All the data you create every single day, where you go, what you buy, who you talk to, who actually owns that? Really? In a world where your info is being gathered up and sold left and right, it's time to ask a really basic question. Is your data truly yours?
So here's what we're going to cover today. First, we'll look at Africa's data privacy crisis. Then, we'll introduce this new idea of masked identity. We'll get into how it gives you control, what you can do with it in the real world, and finally, what the future of all this could look like. Okay, let's dive right in. We're starting where the need is most urgent. Section 1, Africa's data privacy crisis and how personal data is being exploited.
You've probably heard the saying, right? Data is the new gold. Well, in many parts of Africa, there's a full-on gold rush happening, but the data is being mined with absolutely no protection for the people it actually belongs to. It's created this huge vulnerability, and that's really the heart of the problem we're talking about.
And this isn't some abstract idea. This is happening right now. The source material lays out some pretty shocking examples. You have a UK Genomics Institute accused of exploiting African DNA data. You've got global telecom companies that are literally giving African users weaker privacy terms. And get this, a US microloan app was sucking up enormous amounts of phone data, contacts, messages, you name it, for loans as small as $2. It's a model that's been called fundamentally exploitative.
And here's a big part of why this is happening. Look at this number. Only 36 out of 55 African states even have data privacy laws. And honestly, even in the places that do, enforcing those laws, it's often pretty weak. That basically leaves the door wide open for all this exploitation to just keep going. Okay, so we've established a really serious problem. But what if there's a solution? I'm not talking about a little patch on the old system. I mean a solution that could let nations leapfrog these outdated identity models completely. And that brings us to Section 2, Introducing Masked Identity, a new solution to a very old dilemma.
You know, for the longest time, digital identity has been this impossible choice. On one hand, you could have anonymity, total privacy, which is great, but it can also be used for shady stuff. On the other hand, you have compliance, proving who you are, which gives you accountability, but means you have to hand over all your personal data. It's always been an either-or situation, a trade-off.
But what if you didn't have to choose? What if you could have both? Well, that's the big idea behind Alkebuleum Masked Identity, or AMID. This is a protocol that somehow manages to give you total privacy and guarantee lawful compliance, all at the same time. And the magic behind it? It's a mix of decentralized identity and this really cool cryptographic tech called zero-knowledge proofs.
This quote really nails it. Users can prove facts about themselves without revealing the underlying personal data. So think about it like this. You go to a bar. Instead of showing your ID with your name, your address, your exact birthday, all that stuff, what if you could just prove one single thing? Yes, I am over 18. And that's it. Nothing else is revealed. Your identity stays masked. That's the power we're talking about here.
So how does this all actually work? How does AMID put you back in the driver's seat? Let's get into the nuts and bolts in Section 3, Privacy You Control. Okay, so AMID is basically built on 4 key components. First, you've got the AmVault app. Think of it like a super secure digital vault for your identity right on your phone. Second are decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. These are kind of like private usernames that nobody else can control. Third, we have verifiable credentials and those zero-knowledge proofs we mentioned. That's the tech that lets you prove stuff without showing your cards. And finally, it's all held together by decentralized verification, which just makes sure the whole system is secure and trustworthy.
I love this quote from the source material. It's perfect. Your phone becomes your passport office and safe deposit box in one. Just picture that. With the AmVault app, your phone is now holding all your most important stuff, your ID, your health records, whatever, and it's all encrypted and stored right there on your device. You and only you are in control.
Okay, so you're in complete control. That sounds amazing for privacy, right? But there's an obvious question here. What about criminals? What happens when law enforcement has a totally legitimate reason to get access to someone's data? It's a huge dilemma, so how does AMID handle it? The answer is pretty clever. A transparent, on-chain subpoena process. Here's how it works. Step 1. A legitimate authority, like a court, submits a data request on the blockchain for everyone to see. Step 2. The user gets notified and can agree to share the data. But, and this is key, if they refuse, it goes to Step 3. The case gets kicked up to something called the Alkebuleum DAO. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Just think of it as a community-run council. And that DAO can vote to override the user's refusal, but only if the request is proven to be legitimate. It's a whole system of checks and balances, so you get both privacy and accountability.
All right, the tech is super cool, but what can you actually do with it? Where does the rubber meet the road? That's what we're jumping into in Section 4, Real-World Applications. Let's see what this looks like in practice.
Let's start with finance, because the possibilities here are huge. Picture this. You're signing up for a new bank account. Forget about scanning and emailing insecure copies of your passport and bills. Instead, you just prove you are who you say you are, without handing over all that sensitive data. Customer onboarding becomes instant, and the risk of identity theft, it just plummets. Now, let's talk about healthcare. The impact here could be literally life-changing. You would have complete control over your most private information, your medical records, even your DNA data. You could prove your vaccination status without giving your name. You could even get paid to share your data for research, ethically, knowing for a fact it can't be exploited. Remember that whole thing with the UK Genomics Institute we talked about? Yeah, this technology could make that kind of thing impossible. And it goes way beyond just finance and healthcare. This could change so much about our daily lives. Think about a national ID that actually protects your privacy, a voting system that guarantees one person, one vote securely, or even just simple stuff like proving you're old enough to buy a lottery ticket without handing over your driver's license for the whole world to see.
Okay, so the potential here is obviously massive, but where does it go from here? What's next for this kind of tech? Let's wrap things up in our final section, Section 5, The Future of Identity, and check out the roadmap.
The whole journey is basically laid out in 3 phases. Phase 1 is what's happening right now, the AmVault mobile app. Phase 2, over the next year or two, is about upgrading the protocol and bringing in AI. But the long-term vision, Phase 3, is the real game changer, custom hardware. We're talking about an Alkebuleum phone with this top-tier security built right into the chip.
So look, this isn't just about a new app or a cool new phone. This is about a fundamental shift in who holds the power. The goal is to create a world where you, the individual, you own your data, you control your data, and you can even be paid when it's used. It's about putting the power right back where it belongs, with you.
So I want to leave you with this one final thought. If you really truly owned your digital identity with absolute privacy and total control, what would you build? What would you create? Just think about the possibilities.